Hi everybody, my name is Rosemary. It's my first video. I'm really excited. It's 2015 and I've been thinking about doing this since 2014. So I'm gonna get started. The first few videos or several videos may be on my channel. I'm planning to post related to the topic of hoarding, which is a compulsive behavior usually symptomatic of an anxiety disorder called hoarding disorder. And I actually grew up in a family with probably two people who suffered from hoarding disorder, and I've actually written a book about growing up in a household where there's hoarding and really just the effect that that has on you as a human being who's growing and being shaped into life. So part of the reason I'm doing a channel is to promote the book. I hope to get a book deal sometime soon, but we'll see what happens. Either way, I would like to get myself out there and express myself. So the topic I wanted to do for today was related to a really common topic, self-esteem issues. I think maybe most people have self-esteem issues at one time or another. And you know, those could be triggered by things in your childhood, things that happen in school, things that happen in relationships. Maybe you have some sort of leftover feelings, negative feelings about yourself. Sometimes they crop up, right? And if you grew up in a hoarding environment, which is why I'm going to be bringing this all around back to in the end, definitely if you're a child in that environment, there are a lot of aspects of that that could maybe make you feel less valuable as a person and could influence your choices later in life, perhaps. So I'll share something personal with you because if you get to know me, you're going to realize that I'm all about sharing personal things. Some of my friends are like, don't put that out there, don't share it with everybody. But I really think there's power in feeling free to share whatever you want and be yourself. So we'll see. Maybe if I can break down some taboos for some other people too, it might be a relief to hear about things. Anyway, here I go. So I was actually going to do this video or a video a few days ago, but I had this incident come up, which, to be honest, is kind of like out of a telenovela. So I had a boyfriend for almost 2 years, and I was very serious about the relationship. But over time, you know, I started to see that several things weren't what I wanted them to be, and I just wasn't going to keep waiting around. So I broke it off in November, and right now it's January, and actually things were going really well. Like, we agreed to still be friends, we were still on Facebook, and I was like not feeling jealous or anything, and I was feeling like it was nice to be able to still talk to him because I really care about him. And my friends were like, oh, you're not upset at all, you know, you seem really confident, you know the breakup was the right thing. And I did know the breakup was the right thing to do. So things were going well. And then dun, 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 I got a message from another woman who coincidentally broke up with him around the same time that I broke up with him. And it turned out that he'd been with me for 2 years, just about, and he'd been with her for almost a year. And it was, for me, it was like a full-blown relationship. We weren't living together, but we saw each other 2 to 4 times a week. He came over and cooked with me every Saturday night. We were chatting every single day, constantly. And I think she saw him less, but she also thought that they were in a committed relationship and talking about having kids in the future and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And at this point, at first I like didn't believe it, but then I got the evidence and now I know it's true despite his denials. So now it's like I've read all their text messages about stuff they want to do in bed, and she and I had a big session long into the night last night, just like swapping stories and like complaining about how he is in bed, like, you know, oh, he bites you too, yeah, he does it to me, that's awful, and why does he do this? And there's no way this woman is lying. So you know, a lot of people have experienced cheating from different angles. I would say now I've probably been in, I mean, there's usually 3 perspectives, right? And I've now been in each of those 3 positions at one point in my life or another. So, but I haven't been in exactly this situation before. And I think for a lot of people, this brings up insecurities. And, you know, you wonder, like, why did the person cheat? Was there something wrong with me? But in this case, I'm not even thinking as much about that. I'm thinking more about, why did I choose to be with him in the first place? Like, I chose this to be with this guy, and he does have a lot of really nice qualities, or I would not have been with him for 2 years. Like, I still feel the love, like it hasn't evaporated yet. Hopefully it will soon. But he's really funny, and you know, there definitely were moments where he showed me tenderness and love and affection, and we had really, really great conversations. I think even though it's kind of hard to resist the temptation, it would be wrong to just like demonize him, and because I've discovered this dark secret, say, oh, he was a monster and every nice thing we ever did together was false. I don't think that's true. But I had already broken up with him before I found this out. So there were reasons I broke up with him. There were definitely many reasons, good reasons, that I broke up with him. And you know, even before I learned about this, sometimes I would get angry, like, oh, why did I put up with that for so long? You know, oh, like, he didn't spend enough time with me, he didn't really give me compliments or make me feel good about myself, and he kind of just expected everything to conform to, you know, he just expected things to kind of always go his way. There wasn't really much compromise. There were a lot of things that were not great, and that I got fed up with eventually. And actually, one thing that happened in our relationship is that whenever I would try to assert myself and say, you know, I don't like it that you don't spend the night more often, or I don't like it that you're only spending this much time with me, or I don't like it that, in Spanish there's two verbs for to say I love you, querer and amar is supposedly the more like serious one, and querer is supposedly the more lightweight one, and he would always use that one, and we had this whole big issue, like, you know, why don't you ever say amar, and how come it's querer and not amar, and why can't you say this? Like, whenever I would try to express my feelings to him and say that I felt underappreciated, he would play the insecurity card and say, you're just being insecure. And he would always throw it back to this time when we'd only been dating a few weeks, and I did display some insecurities. For a while we used to meet in this park and go running. So he would go to this park and run every day, and so I went to meet him there. And so I'd only been like 2 or 3 times. We had just started dating, but usually like he was already running, like doing his laps in the square, you know, around the park. And so he would run in one direction, and I would get there and I would run in the other direction, and we would like cross each other's. Oh wait, no, I think we went in the same direction, but still he was faster than me, so he would always like pass me up eventually. So and you know, we would know that each other was there, and then when it was time to stop, we would sit on a bench and stuff. So I got there probably the 3rd time I'd ever been, and I did one complete lap around, and I hadn't seen him anywhere. And I started to get anxious really. I started to think, what if he's not here? And then I thought, could something have happened to him? Could he be in the hospital? Was there an accident? What if he's really sick? What if, all these anxious questions. And then I started slowing down, and then I kind of started walking, and I started thinking, he doesn't really want to be with me. He probably just decided that he doesn't want to be in this relationship anymore, a relationship that was like a month old, right? And then I thought, I'll bet he's the kind of guy that won't tell me that he wants to break up, and instead he's going to just not show up tonight. He's going to start going to a different park that I don't know about to do his daily running. He's going to change his phone number. He's going to, you know, cut me off of Facebook or whatever. I thought he's just going to disappear from my life, and I'll never see him again, and that's how I'll find out that we're broken up. And you know, by the time I got like 3/4 of the way around, I was crying because I had talked myself into the idea that he was breaking up with me by not showing up. And of course, when I got to the bench, he was waiting for me on the bench. And I just saw him and I showed up and I just said, "Yo soy una loca," because that means I'm crazy. And so then we had this, you know, funny talk about like me and my imagination. But he used that incident against me for the next 2 years, because anytime that I wanted to assert myself and ask for more in the relationship, he would say, "Oh, you and your insecurities, it's just like that time when, you know, we were in the park and you thought I'd left." And actually, interestingly, when I first became aware of these allegations that this other woman made that have now been substantiated, he did that same thing again. He's like, "This is just like that time in the park. How can you think I would do that to you? I would never do that. You know, this is just your insecurities talking." So he actually used my insecurities against me, but it is true that I have insecurities. And so let's bring this back to hoarding. So people are insecure. People can be insecure no matter where they grew up, right? But in my case, my mother was struggling from hoarding disorder during the whole time I was growing up. It's an anxiety disorder. This is something very serious. Like, I have suffered from a different type of anxiety disorder as an adult, and I really can empathize with someone who's going through an anxiety disorder. I'm worried about, you know, projecting blame and that kind of thing. And actually, by the way, my mother is not suffering from hoarding disorder anymore. So there are success stories out there. Well, when I was growing up, you know, we were living in these hoarded houses, similar to the things you might have seen on TV in these reality programs. And, you know, I had many childhood experiences like going to a friend's house and being really excited because I could never have friends over at my house. And it was really nice to be able to go to a friend's house and play outside of school. And then maybe the next day at school, the friend mentions to me, "Oh, my mom was saying how you left your jacket on the sofa and it smelled like cat piss." Or I would have experiences where, you know, there were many, many, many cockroaches in my house, and they would get into my school notebooks, and I would like shake them out in the morning to try to make sure they didn't go to school with me, but still, like, oftentimes one would like find a hiding place on one of those like 3-ring binders. And I would get to school, and at some point in the middle of the day, I'd been in class, and I would open my 3-ring binder, and I see this cockroach, and I wouldn't want to say anything. I wouldn't want to scream. I wouldn't want to smash it, because any of those things would call attention to the fact that I had a cockroach in my notebook that I didn't want anyone to know about. And so I would have to wait while it crawled down my desk and onto the floor, and just hope and pray that by the time somebody else noticed it and screamed, it was closer to somebody else's desk than it was to mine. And there were times when, you know, cockroaches got into my body. And when I slept at night, I couldn't really prevent that from happening. I would like sometimes go fully clothed to sleep at night. I'd put cotton balls in my ears. But, you know, you still have nostrils. Most people sleep with their mouth open. Other things happen. So it happened multiple times that I would wake up and I would find insects in my body. And, you know, there were times there were mice. There were all sorts of unhygienic things. And when you're growing up, especially in the American school system, you do not want to be in that environment and be the smelly kid. You do not want to be in that environment and be the kid who has cockroaches crawling out of their bag at school. And even if it's something nobody knows about, if you go to the bathroom and you find, I'm going to be real here, if you go to the bathroom and you're a 12-year-old or whatever, and you find like a cockroach smashed in your labia, it doesn't give you such great feelings about yourself as a growing woman, right? So I know this is crazy, but I just wonder, like, what about a guy growing up in a hoarding household? Like, would they get a cockroach smashed under their balls or something? Do guys have places that things can get smashed? I don't know, but let's just say some disgusting things happened to me when I was growing up. And when I was growing up, I really, my mom told me about sex. She told me, one day you get married and you love this person and then the most wonderful thing in the world happens. And honestly, I could not wait to grow up and get married and have sex, because the impression I was getting from society was like that was the best thing ever and you needed a relationship to have that. And I just thought it's going to be so great if I can grow up and fall in love and have a relationship. And then after I had formed those dreams and was growing and developing into, a woman who could physically have those possibilities for herself, well, then these experiences, disgusting experiences, started to happen. And then, if you find cockroaches in every orifice of your body, you think, who's going to want this? And so today, as I'm a 44-year-old woman. I'm almost 44. I have another month. I have a PhD. I have a lot of friends and former students who really love and appreciate me. And I even had a very successful relationship that, lasted till death did us part. But still, when I go out on the dating market and stuff, it's part of me is still that little girl thinking, oh, whether they realize it or not, my body is contaminated by the environment that I came from. And, I'm not like these clean, pretty girls, and they're not going to want me. So I think that sometimes when I meet somebody, if they meet some minimal requirements, I think, okay, I gotta stick with this, because I gotta make this work, because I'm lucky that anybody would want to be with me. So anyway, I mean for this channel to be all silly and funny and stuff, but I'm kind of going through something right now. But anyway, that's part of the point, right? Is to share feelings and experiences. So I'm putting this up here so maybe other people who grew up in a hoarding environment, it's part of who you are and it's part of your identity, and feelings come up, and maybe other people could relate to this and say, yeah, there's a lot of times that I felt insecure about my body ever since I was a kid growing up in a pile of trash. And there's probably other people who didn't grow up in a hoarding environment, but you have insecurities about something else, and we're all humans and we can relate to each other. So anyway, that's my first try, so we'll see how this project goes, but in the future I'll probably be a little more funny. But not always. I reserve the right to cry if I want to. So anyway, hope you're enjoying the new year, and I will see you soon.